Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new weapon of mass destruction that dropped. Donald Trump recently designated fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, citing the number of overdoses from the drug in the country. Meanwhile, his administration is ramping up threats against Venezuela and building up military in the region. The administration has directly multiple deadly strikes on boats off the Venezuelan coasts, which they claim are used for drug trafficking. Hey, just a quick news flash, they have no evidence that they're used for this whatsoever. And at the same time, the administration continues to demand Nicolas Maduro resign. Trump even acknowledged having authorized the CIA to carry out covert actions on Venezuelan territory. Trump and the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, claimed the aggression against Venezuela, which has killed over 80 people since September, is about self-defense and fighting drug trafficking. This is even more ridiculous of a statement, as the very same weekend that Trump announced the airspace closure in Venezuela ramping up attacks, he pardoned the former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who ran the country as a narco state and was part of trafficking over 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. This guy literally once boasted he would, quote, stuff the drugs up the gringos' noses. Yeah. Trump really cares about the safety of folks in the U.S. Not. Meanwhile, as Seth Harp's new book, The Fort Bragg Cartel, shows, the U.S. government has worked with drug traffickers for years and years. It's not like the U.S. government has ever really cared about overdoses or drug problems in the United States. As the author notes, throughout its history, the CIA has worked to achieve American national security objectives, in partnership with known drug traffickers, including the anti-communist Kuomintang, the founders of modern-day Taiwan, Francis Corsican mafia syndicates, Cuban exiles opposed to Fidel Castro. We can go on and on and on. Harp notes, for example, for some years, Afghanistan was producing at least 4/5 or more like 9/10 of all heroin consumed during the global opioid epidemic. Did governments have any problem working with the narco-state governments in Afghanistan? Of course not. We actually helped keep those governments in power. Meanwhile, huge amounts of drugs were actually being smuggled into the U.S. by military members through military bases like Fort Bragg. As Harp has noted, you can look at every single region of the world that a massive drug production center in every case, and you can see that the U.S. military intervention preceded the country's becoming a narco state, not the other way around. Does Trump care about that? If he cared about overdoses, he'd be cleaning up his own military bases trafficking drugs. But it really isn't about drugs. Criminalizing drugs has always been used to both criminalize certain populations or advance imperialist interests whenever convenient. This has always been the policy of both capitalist parties in the U.S. Today, whether in Venezuela or elsewhere in the region, Trump's only interest is the imperialist pursuit of economic political control. Along with the attacks on Venezuela, the administration has announced Operation Southern Spear, a planned military escalation in Latin America. We see how Trump is using the threat of drugs as part of an effort to try to rally support behind a push for military aggression in a kind of 21st century Monroe Doctrine. What's the Monroe Doctrine, you ask? Well, in its original formulation in 1820, it focused on America for the Americas, meant keeping Europe out of the U.S.'s backyard of influence. Today, in Trump's distorted and updated version, which Republicans even jokingly call the Donroe Doctrine, It introduces a variation that simply treats the hemisphere as an extension of the US military, in which the White House acts unilaterally to exterminate enemies. Trump's out here saying fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction. The real weapons of mass destruction here are capitalism and imperialism. In the face of growing US militarization of Latin America, and as anti-war sentiment grows to the United States, we need to denounce and mobilize against these imperialist escalations and denounce these fake wars on drugs that are only wars on people. We need a working class and socialist party that will organize the working class to oppose US imperialist intervention, and we must unite our struggles across the region. Only a united working class can provide a way forward for the workers and oppressed.